Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm gonna play another training game. Two disclaimers before I start. I'm supposed to get a delivery today between 11 and 2 p.m. It's 11:15 now, so if we get interrupted, I'm sorry. The second disclaimer, there's a violent storm over here, so if the electricity gets cut, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, my opponent is 21-26. We're gonna do an exchange Queen's Gambit, which is an opening I enjoy. I don't know a lot about it. If you can hear the wind, I'm sorry. It's, as I said, pretty crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if the electricity gets cut. I don't know what he's thinking about. Taking with the knight does have a name, but I never remembered that name. But if he does take with the knight, then I play e4 and get a broad center and get basically an improved version of the Grunfeld defense, where his bishop isn't on g7. So, okay, bishop g5. Now in this game, I am going to go queen c2 first. Previously, okay, that's not the delivery. That was my sister. I'm not going to answer that, but I'm keeping my phone here so that I can answer the delivery, guys. Okay, h6 is usually a slight inaccuracy, even though it's a theoretical move. Here's the reasoning. If black is going to go knight d7, castles, rook e8, knight f8, knight g6, this knight is no longer supported by the h-pawn. So h6 actually weakens the g6 square. So that's the reasoning. Also bishop d6 is strange. I did not want to go bishop f4. I prefer bishop h4. Okay, e3. Now this plays against knight e5, but not really, because knight e5 cannot be captured. So I'm gonna go bishop d3 first, or knight f3 first. Okay, bishop d3 first. Then I'll decide whether I go knight e2 or knight f3. If I go knight e2, there's the option to go f3, e4. Okay. Now knight e2 definitely seems very tempting because of knight f4. He didn't want to block his knight in. If I go knight f3, knight bd7 actually guards e5. If I go knight e2 and castle and knight f4, then I basically get the bishop pair. So against bishop e6, I almost always go knight e2 because I like the f4 square. Okay, castles first. No reason to waste time. On knight f4, g5, I take on e6, of course. Okay, this prevents knight f4, so if I go bishop g3, he takes. I take with the h-pawn, the knight f4 is defended a bit more, and there I could even consider taking back with the g-pawn and having a structure with d4, e3, f4, f2, h2 for a kingside attack. Okay, let's not waste time. Bishop g3 is the move here. Then I'm going to decide what to do later. Okay, takes. Now, I could consider knight b5, but that doesn't seem to do that much. What I would really like to do is f3, e4 and blast through the center. But I'm pretty sure I want my rook on c1 too. For the moment, it's not clear where the d7 knight goes, at least not to me. Now, I could still choose to go for a minority attack because he'd traded off the bishop. So nothing's controlling b4. I can basically play b4 for free. Again, I'm not sure where the d7 knight goes. After f3, I also have ideas of king f2 and rook h1. But he has knight h5 with pressure on g3, so I need to be careful about that. Now, the good thing is that he cannot go knight h5, knight df6 because of g4. No, but I don't have time for g4 because I need to prepare it with f3. Okay, stopping b4. That's not a bad idea. Now I could go a3 b4, or I could go f3 e4. But on f3 he plays knight h5. I go king f2. f3 knight h5, king f2. What does he do? Let's say he doesn't play knight h5, and I go e4. Takes, f takes. I've doubled isolated g pawns. I'm not a big fan of that. Definitely not. So if I go f3 and don't go e4 straight away, what's the downside? He cannot really move the bishop. So either f3 or a3 or rook c1, those are my candidates. Or knight f4. I like knight f4 too. Because if the bishop moves to g4, I can take on d5. So the bishop cannot really move. But if I get his pawn to e6, then he has e5. I don't like that. He may also have c5 in this position. So a3, c5. Knight b5. I'm not sure if I should allow him to do all of that. I could consider rook ac1 first to see what he does. It seems good to line up my rook with his queen. I'm not going to go for a minority attack. I'm going to go for a kingside attack, and this prevents c5 because of knight b5 and dc5. And if he ever moves the f6 knight or the e6 bishop, then I have knight f4. Okay, so now he would like to go c5. I could consider knight a4 here for knight c5. Knight a4 if rook c8, then knight c5. Knight a4 if b6, then queen c6. Knight a4, rook c8, knight c5, b6, knight d7, knight d7. I'm gonna go knight a4. I like knight a4. If b5, I win the c5 square and probably the c6 pawn. I don't think I had time to go a3, b4 there. I think he weakened his structure enough, and I'm controlling e4, so I don't really need to worry about his queen side. I don't know. I'm attacking. Okay, now knight c5. Otherwise he goes b6. So knight c5, b6 takes, knight takes. He's still gonna go c5. Okay, I'm gonna go knight c5. If he takes, I'm gonna take with the pawn. And give my knight the d4 square, I think. That seems like a good idea. And now I'm blocking his b pawn. Now my knight has d4 and f4. And my bishop is, I think, better than his bishop still. His knight still doesn't have e4. Okay, now knight d4 seems like a good move. But then b6 takes c5, knight b5. Okay, that's okay. I like my knight on d4. It's a pretty good piece. I also have knight f5 ideas with knight d6 to follow. Okay. My rook is useless on c1, so let's play rook ce1. That seems like a useful move. And then I can continue f3, e4. I mean, I could consider bishop f5, trading bishops and getting my knight to d6, but he always has b6 after that, undermining, unless I can play b3, a3, b4. That's what I would like to do. But I have to start with b3. Okay. Attacks my pawn. That means I have to go back. So let's go back. So I have to go b3, a3, b4 to defend the pawn. Unless he plays a4 now. But then I can still go b4. I need to defend the pawn so that I have time to play something like queen e2, bishop b1, and queen back. I need to reverse the order of the battery if I'm going to have any pressure on the light square diagonal. I'm not really afraid of knight e5. If he plays knight e5, I'm gonna go b3. And if he takes queen takes, seems okay to me. So what's queen f6? I don't understand queen f6. If knight e5 and takes, I'm still covering f5. Okay, so I'm gonna go b3, a3, b4. I need to take it slow. Because if I go a3 first, he goes a4, and then I can no longer go b4. And if I can achieve b4, b5, then I'm breaking through the structure and getting the d6 square for my knight. I don't know what queen f6 was. I don't get queen f6. Okay, I don't mind knight e5, that's okay. Because if he takes on d3, I recapture with the queen, and that's fine. Are there any tricks with knight g4? No, so let's go a3. Let's just continue. As I said, my knight and queen are still covering f5, so queen f6 does not allow bishop f5. b6 still cannot be played because I take on c6. And if he goes rook c8, okay, happy to see that. I'm going b4 next. b4, b5, that's my plan. My knight is definitely a great piece. I'm not sure why the bishop would be equal to the knight. It seems like the knight is defended, centralized, and putting pressure on the queen side, which is exactly where I would like to play. And I'm a minute ahead on the clock. So if I go b4, he takes, and goes rook a8. So should I preemptively play rook c3? I don't think so. I'm going b4. Let's go rook c3 now. I don't want to allow rook a3. I don't mind rook a2. On rook a2 I go b5. If he goes rook a4, I go b5. The minority attack is successful after all. I'm not sure you can really call it that because I have a c5 pawn, but still. Okay, there isn't enough pressure here. If b5, rook b2, there could be enough pressure. b5, rook b2, takes on c6, bc6, rook a2. I could go knight f3. So I think we're good. I need to be careful about this pin. If I move my queen, my rook isn't defended. He doesn't have rook f2 because of rook f2, rook a1 check, rook f1, defended by the queen. I'm not sure about that. So pawn takes. What does he take with? Okay, I'm gonna take. Because if he takes with the bishop, his bishop is slightly awkwardly placed. And if he takes with the pawn, then I get the b file for my rook. Also, if he takes with the bishop, yeah, I could consider queen f5. Queen f5 is actually interesting. Queen f5, what does he do? If he trades, there's no pressure on f2 and my knight is getting to d6. If he does not trade, he plays either queen e7 or queen d8. In any case, there's no pressure. So this seems okay. Sorry, let me just turn off the sound. Sorry about that. I mean, this is definitely a good endgame for me if I'm gonna have a knight on d6 or on d4. The only thing that concerns me for the moment is the pressure on f2, but if you trade queens, there's no pressure on f2. And my knight is obviously good on d4, f5 and d6. So now I'm considering, okay, b6 cannot be played because I just take. Now f2 could be under pressure. He wants to go rook a2. How do I deal with that? He also has bishop b5. So knight d4, rook 8, a2. And then I guess slowly getting my king out. I don't have time for much else. If I go rook fc1, he goes rook a8, a2. Okay, so yeah, knight d4. I need to prevent bishop b5 because that would undermine the defense of f2. And then I need to find a way to liberate my position. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know what I'm thinking. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. No, I cannot go rook b3. Because he can at least take and play rook c2. Or rook b2, knight d4, then rook c2. So I need to find a way to get my knight to defend f2. I don't know how though. So maybe rook c1 and rook a1, and then takes, and he plays rook c2. But it's defended. I can go rook a5. Okay. I need to untangle. I feel like this is the way. I need to challenge his other rook. Well, yeah, he doesn't have rook c2 unless I move my knight. So rook to a1 seems like the only plan. I don't think he has bishop b5 because takes and c6. He has to take rook c6, and then if he goes back, I can go rook c5, targeting the pawn. And well, he could go. He could actually go rook d2 there. Okay. Now let's trade off a pair of rooks. I need to do that to liberate my position. Otherwise my other rook cannot move, so I don't think king h7 was good. It gets his king away from the center. But I don't really care whether he takes or allows me to take. If he allows me to take, I'm going rook b1 and rook b6. Oh, he could have taken on f2. What am I doing? He could have taken on f2. I'm an idiot. Why didn't he take on f2? It was a free pawn. Ugh, I don't want to go rook c1, but I have to. The good news is that whenever his bishop moves, I go c6 and get rid of my weakness. The bad news is I'm gonna have to go f3 to prevent king e4. So I'm thinking I should go rook c2 first. But then he has bishop b5. It's not good. But on bishop b5, I could go rook a2. Okay, I'm gonna go rook c2. Followed by f3 and king f2, and if he goes bishop a4, I'm going rook a2. This is a very interesting endgame. I still believe I'm the one playing for the win, but I could be very wrong. It's the reason is that if his bishop moves and I get to play c6, yeah, okay, now f3. If bishop a4, then rook a2. Followed by c6. It's very hard for him to play without the bishop, and if he moves the bishop, c6 is coming. I need to keep my stuff on dark squares, but c2 is the only square that defends the second rank, and c5. And if I lose my c5 pawn, then I'm begging for a draw. Probably just losing immediately. Now bishop a4, and if rook a2, bishop b5, I'm a moron. Okay, but I can at least go rook c3, because he doesn't have rook a2. Or rook c1, I don't know what's better. If he goes g5, I go f4 check. And if he wants to undouble my pawns, then great. I didn't want to go f4 check first. I'm considering knight e2 to try and provoke the bishop to move. Okay, I'm gonna go knight e2. If bishop b5, I'm gonna go f4 check. And then king e4 fails to knight c3 check. And if he goes bishop a4, then of course I go rook b3. And if we trade rooks, I think there's no doubt that the minor piece endgame is better for white. He has two weaknesses. When I play knight d4, I have 0. Okay, now I was thinking that against this, I go g5 check. Because I don't want to allow g4. So okay, let's go g5 check. Sorry, f4 check. I don't want to allow g4. Now ideally, I would like to get my king to d4. So I'm thinking knight c3, king d2, king d3, king d4. He cannot go king e4 here because of knight c3 again. The only problem with knight c3, okay, I'm doubling my pawns. That's nice. Now he has 4 weaknesses. Okay, so yeah, let's get the king to the other side then. Knight d4. Again, preventing the bishop from moving. I don't think I have anything with knight g3. So yeah, let's go knight d4 to prevent any bishop b5 nonsense and bishop a4 nonsense and bishop anywhere nonsense. Tying down the king to f5. Now my plan is to go king back, king e2, king f2, king g3, and win the pawn on g4. Okay, let's move the king. Now if he doesn't play h4 and I go king g3, that seems great. Wow, okay. Do I have anything better? Yeah, my king isn't really useful on g3. I don't know. I don't know how to make progress here. Because if I move my rook, he has rook c1 or rook a5. If I move my knight, he has bishop b5. If I move my king, he has h4 and then rook h1. Or even rook e1. This is tough. Okay, I'm gonna switch to the other side again. I don't think I can play king g3. I don't think it leads anywhere, because he's always guarding g5. I'm never infiltrating. I'm gonna try to get to b4 again. I'm not afraid of this because it does nothing. Can I go rook b2 here? Rook b2, rook a5, king b4. Doesn't seem to work. Well, I could consider knight b3 against rook a5. And then when he goes, okay, I guess you have to go back. Now knight b3, he plays rook b5, I go king c3, maybe I should just trade bishops into a rook endgame, but then it's definitely equal. Cannot trade bishops. I have to go knight b3. Trading bishops is definitely, trading knight for bishop is definitely a draw. Okay, let's use this opportunity to go rook back to c2. I wish I could finally go c6, but I can't. Okay, we need to switch strategies. I'm gonna transfer the knight to e5 and try to make something happen this way. Now I want to go rook b2 because the pawn's defended. And then I'm going to try to transfer the knight back. What? Now he has to trade rooks. Okay, he takes over here. Sorry, Skype messages. Okay, how do I actually prevent this pawn from moving forward? Jesus, this is scary. He found an excellent plan. Wow, I'm just dead lost. How did he do that with 20 seconds on the clock? have to give up a pawn. Though that doesn't help either. What do I do? How did he do this? I'm resigning. This guy is a genius. How did he do this? This is... I'm not going to lie, this seems a bit suspicious. To find this with so little time on the clock. Wow, this is okay. This is incredible. This is insanely good. How long did it take him to find that move? 4 seconds. Yeah, okay. It's not suspicious at all, it's just a good move. That's incredible. Okay. Congratulations to my opponent. Sorry for saying that it was suspicious. Nothing is suspicious about this. He just found an excellent idea.